Hi guys, I'm back again today with another video, and today we have here the Netherlands, or how the Netherlands dumped cars for bikes. So before we start, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button, and let's see. I think we know a little bit about how and why, but let's see what he has to say.
If you want to learn from the experts, you have to find the experts. And that's what I did when I wanted to search for the right way to build cities for people instead of just for cars.
Hey everyone, Micah here with Electrek, and today I'm coming to you from the Netherlands, where we're visiting to see just what the Dutch can teach us about bikes, and maybe a little bit about life, but mostly bikes. Let's check it out.
When it comes to bike experts in the Netherlands, there's one name that stands out above all others: Gazelle. They've been building bicycles for over 130 years in Holland, and invited me out to learn more about how the Dutch have seemingly mastered integrating the most effective and the most efficient form of transportation into their cities and countrysides. And it wasn't without a lot of hard work and even some mistakes along the way. You've probably seen images of Amsterdam before its bicycling revolution. Like most of the West, incomes grew in the Netherlands after World War II, and private cars dominated the culture for decades. But in the 1970s and 80s, the Netherlands underwent changes spurred by several catalysts, from geopolitical effects on surging oil prices to rising pedestrian road deaths, especially among children. National campaigns helped push the country towards a refocus on safer, more efficient transportation. That meant reducing car usage in favor of bicycles, and it took a few decades of experimentation, but the Dutch began to find the right recipes for constructing cities that prioritized bicycles over cars. Take Amsterdam, for example, where there are safe, separated bicycle lanes in many areas, but there are also entire roads that are prioritized for bicycles. Any road with red pavement or bricks is a bicycle-first road. Bikes know this, drivers know this, and everyone accepts it. Drivers are even reminded with signage that says "Bike Road, cars are guests." Cars don't get stuck behind bikes, they're allowed to borrow the road from bikes. And if that sounds frustrating to you as a driver, then it should be, because that's kind of the whole point. Most larger cities in the Netherlands are set up to be bicycle first because it's simply better for everyone that way. In Amsterdam, 2/3 of trips are completed by bicycle. It's safer, it's quieter, it's cleaner, and it makes for a nicer place for everyone to live. In the US, many parents think that they need a car or an SUV so they can take their kids around town. But in the Netherlands, you just get a cargo bike. Front-loader cargo bikes, known in Dutch as bakfiets, are a common way to transport 2, 3, or 4 kids on a single bike. You'll often see scores of them parked outside schools or other areas frequented by kids and parents. Though kids also learn to ride themselves from a young age, and part of going to school in the Netherlands includes learning to ride a bike, learning the rules of the road, and also getting your bicycle rider's diploma at a young age. For kids living in Amsterdam or other canal cities, it also apparently includes learning to swim with your clothes on in case you fall into a canal, but that's another issue. And keep in mind, it's not just cities that have seen massive bike adoption to replace cars, but also the countryside and rural areas, the kind of places that rural Americans would say bikes don't work. As it turns out, they work great, as I discovered. They just need a little bit of infrastructure. And laying down a bike highway is considerably easier, cheaper, and uses a lot less resources than laying down a car highway, even through rural areas. In fact, I got to test out a few Gazelle e-bikes by riding through Dieren, a small city in the Netherlands that has access to great rural biking, and thus great rural bike trails. Many Dutch commute this way between cities, though there are plenty of great trains and other public transit that ensure it's easy to get back and forth between cities without a car. Dieren is where Gazelle's headquarters and factory are located, and have been for over 100 years. While I was not allowed to film on the actual factory floor, since there are plenty of trade secrets in there, the rest of the facility and experience center are full of a mix of history and some of the latest technology found in high-end, long-lasting e-bikes built to be true car replacers, since they come from a country where they actually are car replacers.
Now, in a country where bikes are so important for getting around, you might be wondering how the Dutch handle all of that parking. Well, they've come up with a number of different solutions.
The Netherlands is a country of 17 million people, but around 23 million bicycles. Just like the US has massive parking garages for cars, the Netherlands has highly developed bike parking. It's just not as massive since it doesn't take up as much space. You may have heard about a new underwater parking garage that recently opened in Amsterdam, which boasts space for 7,000 bicycles. That's impressive, and it's also impressive that it takes up a surprisingly small footprint to fit those thousands of bikes. But we visited an even higher capacity bike parking garage in Utrecht, one that can hold over 12,000 bicycles and even has a bike highway running through it, so you can ride right up to your spot. Riding through Utrecht was a great chance to experience what it's like to commute like the Dutch, and see how cycling infrastructure experiments continue to evolve around the Netherlands. For example, this street used to have a protective bike lane alongside the cars, but they actually removed it recently as part of an experiment. Instead, now the road is a bike priority road that gets shared. Drivers know this and they act accordingly, providing ample space when they need to pass or otherwise just waiting. It's somewhat counterintuitive that removing protected bike lanes made things better for cyclists, but when you have this level of buy-in, it simply makes more sense to prioritize the most common form of transportation, bikes, especially when that means prioritizing all the other benefits that go along with them. One of the few arguments often touted to be against bike-friendly cities is that they might not be accessible for those with disabilities. But in fact, believe it or not, it even makes it better for those with disabilities, as any place that is more accessible by bike is going to be more accessible by wheeled access like mobility scooters and wheelchairs. In fact, Utrecht was a chance to get my feet wet before the ultimate test of riding in Amsterdam, a city known for thousands of bikes that ebb and flow through the streets like a school of fish, as if all following some unseen conductor. I was a bit intimidated at first, but soon realized that it was easier than I thought. In fact, being outside of a car and being able to see the faces of other riders made it that much easier, as eye contact and subtle gestures pretty much allow everyone to work together, communicate, and funnel in and out of the flow. Though I'm sure that everyone seeing our group of journalists as the only people in Amsterdam wearing helmets probably helped the locals give us a bit more space than we deserved. Here's another great example of bike experimentation with infrastructure. This is a ferry pulling into Amsterdam. It's full of pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists, and even a few microcars. They previously tried to paint lines or figure out other ways to guide traffic for each group getting off the ferry, but ultimately they just removed every single guide mark in favor of just letting the crowd figure it out. It worked better, was more efficient, and people preferred it. Don't try and tell people in Amsterdam how to walk, ride, or scoot. Just let them figure it out. That seems to be the best method. After spending time integrating with the local Amsterdam bike culture on my loaner Gazelle, I rented a cheap bike for a few days to try again all by myself. It was a major downgrade in terms of quality, but that janky rental took me all over Amsterdam and helped me even further experience the local bike culture. It's something that is second nature to the Dutch now, as biking doesn't even seem to be a conscious act or effort made anymore. It's simply how you get around. Even harsh weather doesn't seem to stop many riders there. Though when things get brutal, the numbers do tend to drop a bit. But for those that really want a weatherproof solution surrounding them instead of just weatherproof clothing, there are options for that too.
Now, another phenomenon you'll see here in Amsterdam especially are these tiny cars, which work really well in these small streets that are optimized for bikes, but obviously are also appropriate for such narrow vehicles like these.
Microcars are common in the Netherlands, though it's mostly an Amsterdam thing. The older ones still have combustion engines, but the newer ones are all electric. They're common among younger drivers and can usually fit 2 people. They obviously share the road much better with bicycles since they're smaller and slower than traditional cars, so they basically serve the purpose of a cargo bike-sized vehicle that happens to be lockable and weather protected too. We need more of these in the US for the kind of people who think they need a car but can't seem to bring themselves to ride a bike. If you're going to be a driver in a city, at least you could take up just the space you need. And it's not that cars don't exist or that highways don't exist. There are plenty of each of them in the Netherlands, but they serve a different role, used more for long-range travel instead of commuting around a city. And the amount of emphasis on bikes first has truly helped shape the country. It's integrated into the culture and the Dutch people. It's just a part of the society, and you can see its effects everywhere. From quieter roads in the city to the communal aspect of Dutch people, even the way they look. This might be a touchy subject, but I'll go there. I think I saw one single obese person the entire week I was in the Netherlands. With the average Dutch person cycling so often every day, the entire country is simply healthier, fitter, and frankly more attractive. And this is despite Dutch culture seeming to have quite the penchant for fried and sugary foods. Throughout my time in the Netherlands, it was hard to believe just how successful the country has been. Not just at getting more bikes on the roads. That was the means, but it wasn't the end. The ultimate effect was improving cities and improving the quality of life for Dutch people. Because that should really be the ultimate goal, shouldn't it? Our cities are for us, the people. Cities aren't for cars, they're just something that has taken them over. But when you take a step back to reevaluate your national priorities, suddenly it becomes quite clear. Cities shouldn't be simply big parking lots, they should be for us to live our lives. After all, isn't that the whole point?
Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed that video here in the Netherlands. If you did, why don't you give it a thumbs up? And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of our future electric vehicle videos. We'll see you here next time.
Let's see how it ends. Okay, so one comment is, oh, of course I do love the Netherlands, but in comparison to America, they cannot implement or they cannot adapt the small cars because they are bigger in size. I think that car is not gonna fit most people. Maybe it will fit the youngins, right? So teenagers, yeah, probably the teenagers, the high schoolers, the college students, and also from what I've seen, I'm not sure if this is true, correct me if I'm wrong, you're gonna be teased. Culturally, it's not a thing, so if they start adopting it, and those people who start having it, they're gonna be teased. Secondly, we've seen in videos that America is huge. So commuting from one place to another, bicycles are not necessarily like, it's hard to adopt them because they live like 20 miles away from one another, right? Like my neighbor will be like uphill there and the next neighbor will be like there. Like it's really hard. Yes, but maybe there's one across me, but then the gaps between houses are like huge. Of course there are neighbors that are closer and all that stuff, but for getting out of the neighborhood, it's not gonna be something that you can cycle to. So it's gonna be hard for America to adapt the bicycle culture. It's if they change the way that they build the infrastructure, probably they could change the car culture if they put things closer together than miles and miles away. But then like we said, America is huge, so I don't know, maybe far away in the future when we are like I don't know, probably like another century, probably even more. But anyways, beautiful peeps, let me know what your thoughts are. But I do really admire the bicycle culture. Like that is my vibe all the way through. And yes, if you like this video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you probably on Wednesday or Thursday. Bye.